What's up, everybody? Welcome back. I'm Abe. This is Stellaris, and we are continuing through to talk about ethics this time. This is going through the Empire creation, either if you're creating your own or customizing, or even just assessing the differences between a lot of the options that you have there of the pre-made nations and people that you get to choose from. So, what is this? So ethics are very similar to traits in that they provide bonuses and sort of help sculpt and give you an impression of what the guiding principles of your race are, right? So we're obviously humanoid, and we are people, and we're based on Earth, and we're on continental worlds, and we're democracy, let's just say. But okay, so what does that mean? Are we religious? Are we militaristic? Do we love aliens? Are we xenophobic or are we xenophilic? And if you can see, since this is sort of in a circle or a pentagram, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, octagram, octagon. Anyway, you've got a lot of options, and there are opposing ethics across from each other. So you cannot be a spiritualist and a materialist. Like, it just deselects as you go across the circle. So each of these provides some bonus of some way, right? So being militarist, we're just going to start from the top and work our way around clockwise. Being a militarist is similar to the traits of being strong in the trait selection. So this increases your army damage, and it increases the fire rate of all of your ships. And so you can either be and those are just one of the modifiers. So this modifies your empire to have those stats. It also impacts, and each of these impact some of the policies that you have and what waging war looks like. So let's just start with the modifiers, and we'll just continue to make circles as we explain these. So again, you have 3 points, much like with traits, only there are no negatives, right? So things on this inner circle here only cost 1, so I could select 3, like so. Or things on the outer circle are 2, and so I could only select 2 options there. And then being a hive mind or a machine brain takes away all other options, and that costs 3. So right at the top, this gives us, if you only want to be militarist, it gives you a 10% bonus to army damage and fire rate. A fanatic militarist gives you 20% bonus. Next to the right is xenophobe or xenophobic, and this gives you, you can declare other races as your rivals, and in doing so, it gives you a boost to your influence gain per month. And by being xenophobic, having more rivals gives you an even more or greater influence gain from that action. It also pushes out your borders. So that's greatly effective, and that's 15 and 30%, and that allows you to sort of encompass other star systems and the resources that are within them. Then you've got egalitarianism, and this increases the overall faction influence gain, so, as well as reducing the consumer goods. So as time goes on, your society will start to split off into different factions. And some of them will align with these choices that you're making now, and some of them will contradict them, right? So you may be egalitarian, and you may have a faction that really is more authoritarian. And then you can embrace or reject those as the case may be, depending on what you would like to do or how you'd like to handle that. But if those factions are having, like, they have certain, not demands, but requests, things that make them happy. And if your population is within a certain faction and they are having those needs met, then they will be that much happier, and they will actually contribute influence to your monthly gain. And that's what this faction influence gain is. And that's either 15% or 30 or 10% reduction in consumer goods cost. And again, that's a sort of a drain on your energy credits, or a 20% reduction. So that's nice. You've got your materialist, and I'm not exactly sure how materialism aligns with research and science in general, but that's kind of how it is. It may be that there was some sort of political reason that they didn't put science focused opposite spiritualist, but we won't go into that. So being a materialist gives you a reduction in the cost to manage and upkeep your robotic populations, and it increases your research speed. And this obviously just doubles it to 20% reduction in upkeep costs and 10% bonus to research speed. So there are a lot of options and ways to increase your research, as you're finding in this game. You can be a pacifist, which is obviously opposite the militarist. And so instead of army damage and fire rate, you get a bonus to population resource production and the core sector systems. Now, the interesting thing here, and one other element of the game, is you get to micromanage what planets you have in your control, but only up to a certain number. Any planets that you've colonized or inhabited above whatever your core sector systems number is or limit is, anything above that number has a pretty severe penalty on resources that you gather. It's like 10% of your minerals are gone, or 20% per planet, or per system that you have above the sector systems, these core systems. And so if you really want to micromanage everything, and I can understand why you do, because I generally fall into this category, picking ethics here that increase the number of core sector systems you have available to you is very, very popular, or would be very attractive. You've got xenophiles, which instead of, giving you border range and rivalry influence gain, reduces the amount of negative impact having your borders close to somebody else's would have on sort of the trust and the relationship that you build with your neighbors. And then diplomatic influence costs. So the amount of influence you're gaining by having trade agreements and being in federations or whatever with other people, it has a certain influence cost, but this reduces that. So you could be just the regular version or the fanatic version. So 50% less border friction and 50% less cost. Then we get into authoritarian, and this gives you, just right off the bat, more influence per month, and it increases the amount of resources your slaves produce. So you can see that this is, if you're looking to have slaves, this would be one of the ethics that you would grab. And this is opposite egalitarian, where consumer goods are being addressed, whereas over here, slave production is being addressed. Then you've got spiritualism, and that reduces unrest, and it has a way of improving your governing ethics attraction, which is like how likely people are to stray from whatever your whatever these choices are, spiritualism, pacifism, or whatever, how likely your populations are to stray from those philosophies. And this is both the light and the heavy version, obviously, is fanatic spiritualist. And it's worth mentioning, now that we've come full circle once, it's worth mentioning that if you are a fanatic spiritualist and one of your neighbors ends up being a fanatic materialist, or anything opposing, anything across the circle from you, there will be an automatic and relatively strong distaste for you, because fanatic authoritarians very much look down on egalitarians. And this has led, I don't know if you've watched any of my videos of me playing as the Accord of Padrog Val, but I was materialist, if not fanatic materialist. One of my neighbors was fanatic spiritualist, and they hated me right from the get-go, and they attacked me pretty early on, and I've just been defending myself from them like ever since. It's been a pain in the ass. So, one more cycle around. Let's talk about what it says here about the policies. So, there are policies in the game that you can set, like, are slaves allowed? Are other alien races that exist in your populations or in your control, in your systems? Do they have full citizenship? Do they get to consume food at a normal level? Do they get consumer goods? And so on and so forth. And some of those are how you conduct war. Can you conduct full orbital bombardment? Can you just, can you purge or displace aliens? Again, let me warn you that if you purge or displace aliens, if you just kill all the aliens on a planet that you just conquered, all of your neighbors get really uppity very quickly. So there's a list of things that impacts all of your what policies you have that you can use. So as a xenophobe, let's just start up here. You get reduced war demands cost, and I'll have a whole video on war demands coming up because the way you conduct war in this game is, of course, complicated. It also allows you to just use full orbital bombardment. As a xenophobe, you can basically take over a planet and either completely displace and send them to their parent faction, like send them back home effectively, or you can just kill them all, or you can enslave them, right, because you hate aliens. Other species don't like you as a result because you are, as a fanatic xenophobe, right, you very clearly do not like them. You are unable to give aliens full citizenship. Aliens cannot participate in your military, and you can't have the policy of refugees being welcome in your nation or in your species or empire. That's the word. As an egalitarian, you have to have democratic government. You have to allow it allows utopian living standards. So that's an increase in consumer goods if you're willing to actually activate utopian living standards. You can't subjugate portions of your population to living in impoverished. You basically you can't impose impoverished living standards on any species that are full citizens in your empire. As a materialist, it allows you to use the academic privilege living standard, which I would guess, I don't know off the top of my head, but I would guess it gives bonuses or more food or whatever to scientists and people in the academic sciences. You can't outlaw artificial intelligence, and you can't outlaw robotic workers. So that makes sense because they're giving you bonuses to the upkeep of robots, right? I mean, these things go hand in hand. Now, if you're a pacifist, you can't just declare war on whoever you want. You have to use a policy that is called defensive wars only, right? So you can only participate in wars that are defensive. Now, if you're a less fanatic version of a pacifist, then you just can't declare war willy-nilly. Again, this will come up when we get into war demands and how we declare war. It makes it so that you can liberate planets if you want, but you just can't declare war as you see fit. As a xenophile, contrasting to xenophobe, you can't use, because you're friendly with aliens, you can't use full native interference policies. You can't interfere with native populations of planets that you come across. You can't ban refugees. You can't displace aliens, and other people seem to like you, which makes sense because you like other people. Authoritarianism. Now, it allows, if you're not even going to get into slavery, it does allow you to have a caste system. And within that caste system, you can have sort of a subjugated caste, which is only allowed to farm, do minerals, and work at power plants or whatever. So you can't use democratic government types if you're authoritarian. That seems to make sense, right? As a spiritualist, it allows you to build temple buildings, which I would guess go hand in hand with this governing ethics attraction, because that's the sort of bonus that a temple would give you. And it doesn't allow you to use to give artificial intelligence full rights. So that's how that goes. So that's it for the ethics. Again, it probably makes the most sense, and you will learn the most, obviously, by watching videos that I've made for you here, but by just picking some things that look attractive and seeing how they pan out. one of my big takeaways is I tend to focus on research. And I think that part of what goes into that is this idea that maybe I can quickly and easily technologically outstrip my neighbors and become the power in the universe just by being far more technologically advanced than everybody else. And that's never how it pans out. Unfortunately, science and research takes long enough that it's going to be well into the end, well, at very least well into the mid game, if not into the end game, before these research bonuses are felt. Because they're percentages, but they're percentages of small numbers. So you start out your science, your physics or society, you're getting like 6 to 10 points. So if you have a 10 or 20% bonus, which is huge, you're going to be getting one more point per month, maybe two, right? So food for thought. But anyway, this is a complicated game, and there are a lot of layers and depth to it. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask them. Hit me up in the comments. Find me over on Twitch. I am at Vinsis on Twitch. I'm Vinsis Gaming at YouTube. And follow, subscribe. I'm going to be making a bunch of these little videos. I'd love to hear from you. I'd like to get to know you. And if you have a ton of time, maybe even play one of these games with you. I've never really played multiplayer Stellaris. I tried to get my wife into it, but she's not interested. So anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. And if there's anything I've left out or missed, then by all means, let me know. And I will see you in the next video.